Right, due to the lovely ambiance that is the British weather in early October, I'm going to keep this preview short and sweet. This is pretty much, from what I understand, going to be a standalone movie starring Joaquin Phoenix, I don't know how you pronounce his first name, so do correct me in the comment section below, as an origin story for the Joker. Now, we've seen an origin story with the Joker before on the big screen with Jack Nicholson back in 1989, in my opinion, the best Joker ever. But what can Phoenix do with a modern take on a well-established and iconic rogue member of the Batman gallery? Who knows? But it's interesting that DC are taking this approach as opposed to what they were doing before with doing the Marvel approach, which only really works for Marvel, and now they're just trying to figure it out. And let's be honest, DC have had a bit of a hit-and-miss record ever since Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman came out, although Wonder Woman and the Shazam movies have been very well received and highly profitable, so I think they're slowly starting to figure it out. And also, for my 5 cents worth, Shazam was a better movie than Endgame. My opinion, don't like it, not my problem. In 2 hours, will the joke be on us, or will this be a laugh for all? In 2 hours, you'll know my opinion. MJ Knight, off. Okay, you know the drill by now? Okay. If you complain that it's been spoiled, I gave you 5 seconds. It's interesting how the writing deals with mental illness, as you see Arthur Fleck, who's Joker's name in this, how he's struggling just to fit in with society. He feels like his social worker could, from his perspective, couldn't really care less when he tells her repeatedly all he has are negative thoughts, not even like a funny little bit of wit and what have you to get him through the day. All he has is darkness and sadness. And when you get towards the end of, well, not so much the end of the story, but when it's building up to the third act, where Joker begins to understand what exactly happened to him as a child. He is not his mother's son because he was adopted, and his mother is not exactly a saint in this flick, because she allowed him to be abused as a child, which would explain why he's grown up with so many imbalances and why he just bursts out into random fits of laughter. And what I find is interesting is how he sort of accepts his insanity and why he doesn't really want to fit in society anymore. Whereas before he was trying to be motivated to be kept on the straight and narrow and what have you, is when he kills the 3 employees from Wayne Enterprises, you see this change where he's just like, I'm okay with it. Which is when somebody who's tried to be good but just ultimately accepts their dark side, and no, this wasn't in Star Wars, but the level of darkness, it was definitely strong in this one. And what I find is just so unforgivable, but at the same time, I kind of half expected it. They referenced the origin of Batman again as a Joker follower wearing a mask sees the Waynes go into the alley, and Thomas and Martha Wayne are gunned down cold in the alley, and Bruce is just left standing with the 2 bodies of his parents, referencing from Batman Year One. I'm going to get on my soapbox here a second, because I feel like this has to be said. Hollywood, we get it. We know Batman's origin. We've had at least 3 different movie continuities that have shown how he actually got started on that path. Now, granted, with the '89 movie, it told it in flashbacks, which I find is a lot easier to digest, because rather than go for an entire movie building Bruce from the ground up to becoming Batman, it's just, you see it in a flashback where it's told in very small doses, but you get the picture. Now, despite that, I actually enjoyed the way they did things in Batman Begins, because even Christopher Nolan had said in extra features of the making of Batman Begins that the origin had never had a definitive description on the big screen. Taking into consideration, by the time 2005 rolled around, I think most people from 5 to 85 know Batman's origin. We've seen it enough times through the comic books from the late 30s going all the way up to Dark Knight Returns, where it's referenced in flashbacks in Bruce's nightmares. We've seen it in Batman the Animated Series. The Batman beat us over the head enough times with it. I get that with the Batman versus Dracula, you have to show him finding the necessary motivation and power to regain control of his will, to resist the hypnotic temptation of Dracula, but at the same time, it's like, his origin again? Really? So, the movie gets a few downer points for that, because it's kind of insulting to most people's intelligence that they have the internet, they know Batman's origin, they don't need to have it shown for the umpteenth time. It's why I actually praise the MCU for the way they introduced Spider-Man into Captain America Civil War, is that the origin is referenced, but they don't go through with Uncle Ben being gunned down. It just says a few simple lines. It's like, when you can do what I do, but you don't stop the bad things happen, and when the bad things happen, they happen because of you. It was short and straight to the point. And I did get the impression of a narrative of, the upper class and the rich versus the working class and the poor. It's just like, guys, that's really poorly timed considering what's going on in the world these days. I'm not going to get too much onto a tangent, because I leave politics to people who have more time and patience for it, and I have neither. But yeah, I did feel like that was kind of poorly chosen with that particular aspect of the writing. But minus those downer points, the writing is reasonably decent, because you're getting an origin where, like I say, it's not the traditional thing that we've seen from the Joker, but I suppose when you look at it from the perspective of portraying this in a realistic light, it makes sense. And the director, Todd Phillips, he wanted to present Joker in this light, and he wrote the script to Taylor Phoenix, because it was rumored for a while that Leonardo DiCaprio was going to play the Joker. Now, given the caliber of the actor that DiCaprio is, I would have been all for that, because he's one of those actors that he had the, I don't want to say burden, but the kind of downer point where people think, oh, he's just a pretty boy, he can't act. Titanic, Catch Me If You Can, The Aviator, and The Beach. I think it's living proof that the man has the acting prowess and capabilities to match his good looks. And as to be said, 22 years after Titanic, he's still a handsome man. And here's the thing, folks, you can say that platonically, Nothing wrong with saying that. Because I think given the choice, most guys would like to look like him. So yeah. Writing, if I have to be honest, if it didn't have those downer points that got on my nerves a little bit, I would have given writing a solid 10. But for the downer points, I'm going to give it an 8.9. I would have given it less, but because of those little things that are going on around the world, which, here's the thing, folks. When you're writing a movie, don't bring your personal politics and ideologies into it. You know, you could bring up a fictitious narrative, because it's not, because then it will say, well, he or she is not picking sides or giving us their political viewpoint. And I think that's something that needs to stop. And, you know, it's particularly the sort of thing that happened with Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, where they were taking jabs at the president. And as I've stated numerous times, I'm not a fan of the guy. I think the man has diarrhea of the mouth. But I just think it gets really dull, depressing, redundant, and repetitive when you're taking jabs at him. When, here's a newsflash, when you do that, you're actually promoting him. You want to kill this guy's momentum, don't talk about him altogether, you know? The best way to bring somebody down with regards to if you don't like him or not, don't talk about him on social media. Don't bring him up in YouTube videos. If someone tries to bring it up and you know that they hate him, you just immediately change the conversation. Because I know some people say, well, you're promoting him that way if because you're also defending him. No, I'm not defending him. When you see someone's name show up in the press or on social media, on YouTube, I like to think of YouTube as separate from social media because it's a video sharing site. That's my take. You know, you say, can we not talk about this guy anymore? It's because you're sick of hearing about it. And also, here's another thing, and this is something that I've had explained to me down the years, and I fully agree with this. The more you complain about somebody you don't like, it kind of says that you like them. Just saying. Now, we'll get on to cast. I had my initial people's eyebrow raising, I think I'll do it right, people's eyebrow raising moments when I heard that Joaquin Phoenix. Oh, right, I really don't know the correct pronunciation, so I just refer to him as Mr. Phoenix, as Arthur Fleck and as Joker. I thought he was amazing. I haven't been that impressed with somebody taking on the role of the Clown Prince of Crime since Jack Nicholson in 1989. Because to me, Nicholson is still the standout template, standard bearer, measuring stick, call it what you will. He is the level to shoot for. I like Heath Ledger as Joker, but to me, that's anarchy. That's not Joker. Nicholson is just the guy. You know, that's the level you want to shoot for, because the guy is oozing charisma, it's completely unhinged, dark as heck, but he makes you laugh. With Joaquin, I get the impression that his portrayal of the Joker is, you feel sorry for him in the beginning, but when you see him doing all these dark and dastardly deeds, you're kind of like, I don't really have a lot of sympathy for you because you killed 3 guys. And, you know, the murder scenes that happen, especially with one of his co-workers, that was messed up. I didn't think they were going to go that gruesome and that graphic with it. It's probably why it got a rated R certificate in the States, where for us it was a certificate 15. And it's amazing the body transformation that Mr. Phoenix went for Joker. Whereas we've seen Joker before, he's either just well-proportioned or very lean, as is the case which probably Heath Ledger went for. Phoenix is looking like a skinny rake. in this because he's just, so malnourished, probably not eating, sleeping, nor drinking properly. So he is unbalanced physically as he is mentally. And you get the impression with the way that he is prepared for this is that he has absorbed the portrayal that he wanted to put out as the Joker. Because you'll get someone like Nicholson and Heath Ledger who are method actors. They really get into the part, although I would argue also, although Nicholson is a method actor, it's just him being him, but with the volume turned up, because he already has that natural charisma and presence to make anything work. So for him to go on the, as the Joker, it's just like, it's just Jack being himself. Because Nicholson did do some messed up stuff in that, especially with the pen is truly mightier than the sword, which I'm amazed in 1989 that they even got away with putting that into a movie. But so far today, that is the only Batman movie that has had a certificate 15 rating. I'm told it actually originally had a 12 certificate. I looked at the certificate rating on my DVDs back in the day. It said 15. Nowhere on this earth does it say 12. And unless we say about Batman, there's no way on earth you could get Batman Returns for a 12 certificate. No way, Jose, sir. No. But Phoenix, if this guy does not get an Oscar, or at least an Oscar nomination, that is a travesty. Because here's a guy who, when you look at the sort of things that this guy's done throughout his career, going all the way back to when he played a Caesar in 2000's Gladiator, where you have the juxtaposition and suspension of disbelief to think, that's not Phoenix, he's actually playing the Caesar, where he just loses it himself in the role, particularly with his iconic delivery of, "Am I merciful?" Kind of feel like we're wandering into Michael Shannon territory. I'm just imagining Zod now appearing in Gladiator going, "I will find him!" Caesar? Who are you talking about? Oh, I don't know. But yeah, fantastic actor. Deserves an Oscar nomination at least. And for supporting actor, you got to give it up to De Niro as Murray Walker. He plays an 80s late night talk show host, huge presence, even though his role is very small. And the guy, he just oozes charisma. Particularly when you hear lines like when he's responding to Joker saying, "I just want to make people laugh. I want to, bring joy to people." And he just says, "How's that working out for you?" That very sort of wit and repartee that most talk show hosts had back in the day, going back to the days of Johnny Carson and David Letterman. The very sort of thing that could get the crowd going, probably at the interviewee's expense, but it's the sort of thing where it gets a laugh from the audience, particularly if there's like these stale, quiet moments. He's able to get a laugh out of people. And, it's De Niro. You think back to things like Raging Bull, Taxi, Analyze This, Analyze That, which those movies are sorely underrated, where it is De Niro being De Niro, doing gangster movies, but it's kind of turned on its head where you see a very comedic style, where he's essentially he's essentially making fun of the sort of roles that he's done before. And to have that kind of contrast, to do that takes exceptional talent. And for him to still have that kind of wit and X factor, as a talk show host, it works. You could still look at it, it's De Niro being De Niro, but it works for the purpose of the role that he's going for. Brett Cohen plays a much less sympathetic version of Dr. Thomas Wayne, borderlining on douchebaggery levels with the way he speaks to Joker, because it's implied that Joker's mother had a little thing with Thomas Wayne back in the day, and it's revealed it can't be that way because Joker was adopted, and, you know, that his mother was just as delusional as he was. Now, a lot of people got the impression that he was a stand-in for President Troy. I never got that vibe. All I just saw was, oh, this is a jerk version of Thomas Wayne. Yeah. I mean, he plays the part well, but like I say, I never got that President Troy vibe from him. The supporting cast do a great job, as most supporting casts do. I think the one that had a reasonably good rapport with him was, let me just see if I can get her name right. Zazie Beetz as Sophie Drummond, who plays one of his neighbours from down the hall from him. You think that there's like this nice small romantic thing going on, but it turns out just to be part of his imagination, where you see before where they're walking around and they're having a good time. He's actually there just by himself, and even when he's in the hospital looking after his mother after she had a stroke, you would see the scene where she goes out to get a coffee, and it cuts to she was never there. And it's just this very awkward scene where he's sitting in her apartment, and she has no idea why he's there. And it's at this point you kind of realize it's his delusions, that he thought he was having a relationship with her, but really he isn't. I thought the kid who played Bruce Wayne, even for this small role that he had in it, you know, it takes a lot for a child actor to be able to show great acting when their role is very small. And I felt very, very uncomfortable when Joker is actually putting his hands on Bruce's face just to show the smile. I'm like, I don't think that's appropriate. It's like, nope, do not want. And like I say, Raiden, this is one of those scenes where that'll give you nightmares, so for your sake, buddy, don't watch this. Everyone else is welcome to watch it, but Raiden won't like it. One of the more positive aspects I want to highlight, I really loved the score that they had for that, particularly where it kind of feels like movies of yesteryear, this very timely sort of thing that you'd see things going back from the 60s to the 80s. Even the opening credits and closing credits are done with, done with just, simple text, like Warner Brothers Pictures presents Joker, and they even have the end on screen when the movie is finished. And I'm like, are we having one of those what was old is now new again? Because I'd like to see that make a resurgence, because it was actually pleasant to see something like that. And the soundtrack, particularly when you have songs like That's Life by good old Blue Eyes himself, Frank Sinatra, I'm like, oh, it's where it's a weird, contrasting complementarity of what the movie's trying to do, where there's these really dark scenes and you're sort of trying to understand the character, but there's these very upbeat and very cheery songs. It's like if you go to a party and everyone's having fun, but you hear this very morbid, depressing score. It's that kind of contrasting juxtaposition where you don't know really what to think, but it works. And as well as the origin of Batman being referenced again, we get a reference to Heath Ledger's smile at the end as Phoenix smears his grin with his own blood, almost mimicking Ledger's scarred smile from The Dark Knight. Now, whether that was intentional or not, I don't know, but either way, it's a nice reference, because, like I say, Ledger's Joker, it was a different take on the character, as is with this one. Nicholson's... I think he was a guy that was borderlining on insanity with the way he was doing stuff as Jack Napier. With Heath Ledger's, it's crazy, but it's more like from the perspective of a psychopath. You know, this is a guy that he never probably intended to start out as a decent person. He just wants to have anarchy because of the way Batman had done things from Batman Begins, whereas with Phoenix's take on the character, he kind of starts out as a victim, but then he turns into a villain himself. And then you're seeing where the story comes full circle, where his mother went into Arkham Asylum when she was a great deal younger. You're now seeing history repeating itself with Joker now in the asylum. To rate this, very dark, very disturbing, but well acted, decent paced story. And where does this go from here? Because the word on the wire is going around that the Batman movie that is coming out for June 25, 2021, whether it's going to be the same Bruce Wayne carrying over into that movie, I don't know. Because the Joker movie is set in 1981, whereas the Batman story is going to be portraying Batman a lot younger compared to what had happened with Batfleck. And the word on the wire is that they're going to get Macaulay Culkin as the Joker. Now, I'm not against the idea nor casting of Culkin as the Joker, but it seems odd for a former child actor that hasn't really had any notable success on the big screen since the post-Home Alone era, from when he played Master McAllister in Home Alone 2, all the way back in 1992, if I'm not mistaken, to suddenly be plucked from obscurity again to playing arguably one of the most iconic comic book rogues ever. I don't know. But I do think that Matt Reeves knows what he's doing, because he's a very accomplished movie director, particularly with what he's done with the recent Planet of the Apes movie series and what he did with Let Me In. So for him to now go to a comic book adaptation movie, that should prove interesting, because he sees things from a very unique perspective. He will try anything and everything to see if the movie plotline will work. Even from, like, very minuscule things. Because I remember in the extra features for Let Me In, Cody Smith-McPhee said the way that sometimes they would be sitting, he would see the way Chloe would have placed her foot on a part of the floor, and then she would move it over maybe like a centimetre. He's like, yeah, that's it, perfect, go like that. You sort of think, okay. But that's always the thing of an artist. They have the image of how they want it to be presented, whether it's in film form or in picture form or even as music. It's how they get that image and that idea and then present it physically in a tangible form. Because Chris Jericho once said is that if you can take something from nothing, you're an artist. Whether it's through written format, whether you're an editor, or whether you're an artist, you know, doing paintings, doing photography, if you have an image of how you want to see that idea come to life in a tangible physical form, you're an artist. And Matt Reeves is certainly that when it comes to movie directing and editing. So how it will turn out, I don't know. And, you know, Robert Pattinson as Batman. That will be an interesting choice. But then again, everybody, like I said, everybody scoffed at the idea of Michael Keaton many, many moons ago, and he had the last laugh. Will Pattinson have the last laugh as the Dark Knight? We can only tell when that movie comes out on June 25, 2021. But from this ticket of Real Features, I've been MJ Knight, signing off from the Joker.